Hi.
Hi.
Oh, I came in strong.
Who coming in hot? Andre.
I should just be like, hi.
Who are you?
I'm Andre.
And I'm Allie. And what are we doing?
This is
The Love is Blind podcast. Woohoo!
Sweden.
Reunited.
Sweden edition, the last episode of our Sweden series.
Ultimo. Yes, called The Reunion.
The reunion, yeah. That's episode 10, and the description is...
In this reunion special, the season's participants sit down for an emotional conversation to clear the air and share where they are now.
You want to take that again? I'm kidding.
Nope. I want to keep going through, you know?
Yeah, because we have delayed this.
We've delayed it, and
But we've made it. We're here.
we made it, we delayed it, and we slayed it. We'll
And
find out.
we slayed
We'll
it.
find out if we slay it. Could be.
But yeah, it was. We actually watched this. Obviously, not obviously, but of
Yeah.
course we watched this earlier.
We
Because
did. I actually could not wait to get to it.
we really wanted to see how things were going to turn out for folks, and it is interesting. Thank you,
It
by
is
the way,
quite.
to Josie Leduc for encouraging us to record this.
To hop on it.
But yeah, as always, we'd love to remind them.
Love is blind.
Yeah, love to remind everybody that love is blind.
That love is blind.
And that you should give us 5 stars.
Right.
Give us a thumbs up. Give us a thumb. I can't. Okay.
That slated is really on thin ice.
This is, yeah.
Give us 5 stars. Like us follow us on Instagram. Like us wherever you can, wherever possible. In
And
the streets, on the mountaintops.
Reviews on Apple Podcasts make a big difference because that seems to be our largest platform. But you
Yeah.
know, we're on all the platforms.
We're on them all. We're not on TikTok, but if you want to talk about us on TikTok, we think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm into it. I support you doing you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, for us specifically. Yeah.
So other than that, really,
There we
let's
go.
jump right in. We begin with probably the lowest key intro of
Yes.
any reunion I've ever seen. Everybody's just already seated, and just the host walks in.
Yeah, there's no
Which-
like dramatic we're in the pods. Just like
honestly,
here we are. Let's start this reunion.
I'm fine with it. I'm totally fine with it. I was
Oh.
we just jumped right into it.
I do appreciate the over the top extravaganza of Brazil.
Yes, they
Yeah.
they do like a dance or two. They
Yeah.
do choreography. It's a whole thing.
But anything that, yeah, when it's Nick and Vanessa, then like anything that's less time
Yeah.
with them is something I'm on board with, you know?
Mhm.
So, yeah. We start with the update from the golden couple, Rasmus and Chrysalie.
Yeah, and of course, in typical fashion, they do the whole "we're gonna throw
We're
you
faking
off,
them.
we're faking you out."
Faking them out.
Unnecessary. I
know.
genuinely hate that any couple does that.
At least they're not doing it on the altar, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also
I think they did it.
Well, yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I like the fact that, she asked that the host asked them ahead of all of this how it felt to watch themselves on TV,
Mm-hmm.
and they were noting, how they have how they may have habits or verbal tics that they maybe didn't notice, and
Mhm.
yeah, I imagine that watching yourself kind of in this very expanded version of yourself when you've just been recorded for such a long time must be a trip.
Yeah, I used to do some sketch comedy, and when we'd film, a lot of it was like kind of improvised, kind of
Mhm.
sketch. And it turns out I say totally all
Totally.
the time.
You
All the
do?
time. And when it was time for editing, it was like, oh no, there's another totally. What can I say? I'm a California girl, you know?
Mhm.
I speak how I speak. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the couples still together.
Yeah.
All
so
of the couples.
all of the
actually.
couples are still together. That, all the folks who said yes are still yes. And I was on the side that kind of believed that maybe Sergio and Amanda would have split by now, but no.
I mean, I think Amanda doesn't split.
Yeah, I think maybe Amanda doesn't split.
Yeah, we'll check in with them later because there's a lot of updates about those two.
Yeah. But we get a lovely little view into people's lives as newlyweds, which are real cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
updates.
Yeah, overall real cute updates. By the way, am I completely missing this? Did Chrysalie have that neck tattoo in the pods?
I don't recall it, but
I mean, it's cool. I like it, but
we were so focused on the color of her eyes, we couldn't tell what else was going on with her body. I don't think she did. It's probably new. I
like the fact that their dogs are totally good friends now.
I know.
And that Mayra's closet is all organized. And Oscar's so impressed that she's doing color coding.
Oscar and Mayra do seem to have compromised with each other, which is great. Yeah, because they were really at odds, and she was, I think, kind of stubborn, and she was fighting a lot of her own stuff coming up during this process, and seems to have really let go, and now they're meeting in the middle on a lot. It's really cool.
Yeah,
I think they were my favorite reunion couple. Even though they weren't my favorite couple. I mean, I liked them on the show, but they weren't my favorite couple on the show. That was Chrysalie and Rasmus. But, I think in this reunion, I feel the best about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something, by the way, that I did not realize about Sergio, and maybe this is just me, I thought that his little short-ceilinged room was just like a side room. I didn't realize that was the bedroom.
No, baby. That's where the magic happens.
That's the bedroom.
That is the bedroom. Yes.
Yes. As a tall person, I think I would have a hard time with that.
Yeah, well, that's why she was like busting a gut, That's why she couldn't stop laughing.
I mean, okay.
I was surprised they chose his apartment, by the way.
Yeah.
I was like, what's your apartment like, Amanda? Maybe she lives at home.
Maybe hers is worse.
That could be.
Yeah.
But yeah, all the couples.
Her bedroom is underneath some stairs.
Underneath the stairs. With the spiders.
Mm-hmm. With the spiders.
Spiders.
But yeah, overall, everybody who said yes seems to be in a really good place. I purposely waited until we watched the reunion to follow anybody on Instagram from this season.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also cute to then see that, to see who they are, in their public personas that they put out into the world through their social media. So that's kind of fun too.
Mm-hmm. Which usually they don't let them announce on social media till after it's done, but because we watched this later.
We watched it so late.
We would have been able to find out, but we didn't for you guys. If holding off on our own personal spoilers for you all, our lovely, lovely listeners, is not worth 5 stars, I don't know what is. That's some dedication. Yeah, I really wanted to watch this reunion too. I was really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We do have, some updates about how, living together has affected each other. So, we talk a lot about Oscar keeping things constantly cleaning, and how Oscar now looks forward to coming home every day, which is really sweet.
But now he has a home.
Aw. I like how you rephrased his more convoluted way of stating that exact thing.
Yeah.
And how, Oscar is now doing better with silence. And honestly, I think the thing that she says here is really important, and something that I think is important for a lot of couples to hear, which is that silence does not necessarily mean anger.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is a way in which a lot of people might respond to, the need, somebody else's need for space is that they interpret that as like they're angry at me, they're upset at me, and that I must do something to correct it. I must fill that void, or at least check in with them verbally to make sure that they're not upset with me.
Yeah.
And from that point of view, I'm now seeing Oscar sort of like being present and kind of trying to like chime in and make kind of random points to her about like, oh, Elon Musk is launching another rocket. I think he was trying to figure out, is she mad at me?
Are we okay?
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, she was mad at him a lot.
Or sure,
mad at him. I don't know, like not tolerating him a lot.
I think they were talking / not talking past each other. They were existing. They weren't existing in the same reality necessarily exactly, because she just wanted peace and quiet in that moment, and he wanted to make sure that they were okay. And neither of them was really clear about the fact that that was the thing. Well, I mean, I guess she was fairly clear that she needed space. But ultimately, what I mean to say here is that it is important, I think, for many couples to understand that silence does not mean anger. Because it is a way in which some people respond, that they just go quiet. And communicating at least about what that quiet might mean proactively can be helpful, so that the other partner can interpret that silence correctly and treat it correctly.
Yeah, I think for them, a lot of the show, all of the show, they didn't really have their secure base, you know? And so if they have established that since, then it's a lot easier to think of silence as no big deal.
Yeah. I just noticed that our air conditioning just kicked in pretty darn loudly.
I was like, what is that?
So...
what is that wave?
I'm going to very quickly pause. And we're back.
We're back. Air conditioner free.
Air conditioner free. So we move on to a conversation about Sergio.
A couple that still exists.
Yeah, a couple that still exists. I do love the fact...
that we both know, that we know and know.
Know and know. We know and know. But I love the fact that we jump into the fact that he was called Red Flag Sergio, and that a lot of people saw his behavior as a red flag. And, you know, he kind of confirms pretty much what you were saying, which is that he was in the moment making a choice. Yeah,
there is a way in which he's like guileless, you know? The impact can be very, very manipulative. So I don't deny that. But internally, there's not premeditation, I guess, in what I see in a lot of his actions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's something. Anyway.
We are also addressing the secret dates, the fact that he told Amanda that he had stopped dating other people and he hadn't. And his explanation also kind of fails here, in that he kind of says, well, I wish I wasn't still dating people.
You know, but I think that's what it is. I remember when we talked about this with him, like, when he's lying, it's like he's telling the version of things that he wishes were true.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, that's like always a thing. And that's, there's like a conflict avoidance and wish. Chrysali's face throughout this is like, I hate this bozo.
I mean, also whenever they cut to Christopher.
Yeah.
Which, oh my God, this is going to keep coming up, but they did him dirty on this reunion episode.
Okay. I think you and I are going to have some interesting conversations about Christopher.
I think there are some problems about Christopher that I didn't maybe realize, but also they focused on some things about Christopher that I was like, you didn't need to show that about him.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
I mean, we can just keep going past Amanda and Sergio. There's going to be so much to say about them, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we also get into the fact that he thought that she might not look good, and he's choosing not to focus on the fact that he was freaked out because of the scoliosis. Instead, he was like, oh, it's because she was bullied. and he kind of says, "Oh, I was just afraid." Instead, this is something obviously Christopher had gotten pretty upset with him in the moment when he was going off inside the pods. But he gives this apology here, saying that he's deeply ashamed and that he says that he behaved despicably.
Yeah. Rasmus kind of steps up for him a little bit and is like, you're not a bad guy, but you didn't act great, But Rasmus seemed to be the one that most tolerated him even during the main show,
Yeah.
Like when they were all at that, I don't know, some event together where the exes came back. He was talking with Sergio on his own, I'm like, okay, you're like one of the only people who can kind of stand Sergio.
Yeah. Although it is interesting that everyone, including Rasmus, was like, we didn't think you two would be together still.
Yeah.
And hey, ditto, we are on that same page. And Christopher, kind of comes to Amanda's defense a little bit too, saying that she's a very nice person and very kind and nice, and that he saw the opposite in Sergio.
No, he says they're not the opposite.
Oh, they're not the opposite.
They're not the opposite. He's like, Amanda was really warm and nice, and Sergio, well, he's not like the opposite, but they're like chalk and cheese.
Is that the thing?
Yes.
It's chalk and cheese?
Yes. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Everybody's like, Amanda, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get to the rumor.
Why are you dating chalk, girl?
Yeah.
Why you cheese? You cheese. You can have anybody. You can have bread. You could have tomato.
We know you're a fan of cheese.
You're great on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chalk. Come on. Yeah. Quick update from Rasmus and Chrysalie and, him being superficial. I want to get to like the meat.
Yeah, wait. I guess they very quickly bring up the rumor of whether Sergio has a child, but they don't
with someone in Barcelona.
Yeah, and then we don't get the other piece of news just yet. So I guess we move on to Rasmus before we get the really juicy detail.
Right.
We do get the Rasmus not knowing Chrissy's name, which this is a montage that
was pretty funny, I thought.
Was pretty funny.
And it reminded me when she was like, sorry, I just jumped over you. What were you saying?
Oh, no, I was just saying that a lot of the things that were shown here are not scenes that we saw throughout the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember when they were getting married and Chrysalie was like, do you remember my name? And in the time, I was like, this must be a response to the eye color comment. And I thought it was like, well, seeing this, I'm like, oh, that's what she was probably talking about.
Yeah.
Is that he couldn't remember her name ever.
Yeah, but the fact that he proposed to her with the wrong name is a very... I also really like the scenes of him and Christopher sitting down and trying to guess at what the spelling of her name is. Which, okay, I get that Love is Blind, but at any point he could have been like, hey, so how do you spell your name? Like, they're talking for hours
Kimberly?
and hours. Yeah, he does propose to her as Kimberly. Mm-hmm. And she calls it sloppy.
I mean, fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was kind of a fun, and they take it with a lot of good humor. So that was pretty cute to see. And it is interesting how Chrysalie feels that the fact that she was so happy with Rasmus somehow came across as insensitive towards other people too.
Yeah,
which is,
in the PDA.
Yeah, which it. On the one hand, like, props to her for being self-aware of that when looking at it, but also, hey, a great thing that you found happiness in love.
Yeah.
Like, you were just happy, and that's awesome. We get a little scene of them seeing a fortune teller before the wedding. Mm-hmm. Oh, and yeah, there is no neck tattoo, by the way.
No neck tattoo.
And overall, the what we get out of this is that Rasmus does not buy this at all.
Well, it also like a little bit of a challenging read.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
she's like, you're attracted to each other, but maybe not in love. Which, whoa, that's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Rasmus probably would have been more inclined to believe it if it was saying favorable things, you know?
Yeah. I mean, also, I wonder how that read would have changed had they told the person, well, we met having not seen each other for the first 10 days and we got engaged.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then we do get the full update where they have had a rough time since the show.
Yeah, and that they've had to work through a lot of things that they didn't expect they were going to have to work through. I think they're the ones who end up going to...
They were in counseling
together.
Yeah, almost broke up a couple times, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How did that impact you?
Impact
yeah,
me?
That they were such a star couple, and
I mean,
now seeing this,
I 100% expect something like this because just because they're a star couple doesn't mean that they're not going to have a lot of things that they need to work through, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I 100% think that, especially if you're going to be married to a person and you don't know them, and you're at this point where you know, to Rasmus's point, they didn't have good ways to communicate. Props to them for going to couples counseling.
Mm-hmm.
That's so important in a situation like that. If you find that you can't communicate with your partner, that you can't address the things that is on your, like if you have things on your mind that you don't feel like you can address to your partner or find ways that they can hear what it is that you're saying, then yeah, you probably need some couples counseling to very specifically talk about how to communicate and how to hear each other and how to understand each other. So just because they have gone through difficult times, I don't think this makes them any less of like a kind of like a star couple. In fact, the fact that they've worked through it is great. And I would be surprised if, you know, like people who have been together for such a short amount of time and then gotten married don't end up needing some kind of assistance, you know, of this kind at some point in their relationship.
Mm-hmm. So for you, it's not totally unexpected. Totally. Totally. But
You're so
in fact,
California.
I'm so California, dude. And it, in fact, makes them a stronger couple.
I think so. What do you think?
I like that interpretation. So there's like the version of me that's like real and understands relationships, where I actually am very on board with what you're saying. Mm-hmm. There's also a part of me that's really romantic and wants the fairy tale, and that part is like, oh no, what happened to our star couple, you know? But yeah, it's when I take a step back and think about how humans really are, it makes sense. We did see conflict, but with them, it was always kind of there and then move on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I can see how that was not possible, especially it sounds like kind of a chronic situation of her just being really unhappy in this new place and him taking it personally and then not being able to communicate about it. I can see how if they didn't have those tools, that would, you know, they did the right thing. They went to counseling, they got some support and seemed to be doing better.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we saw in the show that to me was a sign that even though everything seemed to have worked out fine superficially, I kind of anticipated personally that it would lead to issues was the whole dog scenario, right?
Yeah.
Because the way Rasmus responded to it was to the talking head. He was like, she clearly hasn't trained her dog. She doesn't know what she's doing. To her, he was this kind of like very peaceful, placating, sort of like mild smile on his face to be like, no, it's okay, it's okay. But it was clear that probably was bothering him. And then from her perspective, it was She was freaking out. She was associating a lot of anxiety and emotion around this entire meeting.
Yeah.
And also not fully addressing it, and instead just kind of choosing to walk away from it. And to me, that was a sign of you both have things that you probably should have told each other in that moment and chose not to, and we've moved on past it. And everything worked out. The dogs ended up getting together and working out just fine. But the fact that they didn't communicate about it, to me, was like, oh, you guys will need to learn how to communicate about this kind of stuff at some point, you know?
Yeah, having a first fight is a big sign of whether how your relationship will be, you know?
Yeah.
If you can talk about it, great. If you just have to move on and like get to good again and want to avoid that conflict, then yeah, life's tough. You're going to disagree, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of their update. And then we
Move
get
to Amelia.
some of the couples that didn't make it. Yeah. And Amelia and Lucas. Amelia looks furious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And she's like, I want Lucas to tell it. So Lucas says that they dated afterwards.
Very
which,
briefly.
Amelia, come on, girl, you know? But Lucas was like, maybe it was just the cameras and the pressure and everything. But no, it wasn't.
Yeah, and it sounds as though it was something that kind of came out in a conversation between Lucas and, was it somebody else? Where there was some situation where Lucas essentially said, like, I don't see that I can ever reach a point where I can marry you, but it wasn't something that he said directly to Amelia. Yeah, what a rough time.
Yeah. Yeah, he did not do right by her, you know. At the same time, she tolerated way too much. I don't know. I feel for her. It's easy to look from the outside and say, why didn't you walk away? I can see on the inside, it's seeming like he's just got cold feet. She's really, really into him. There's ways he's really nice to her. I can see on the inside it feeling more confusing, for sure.
Yeah.
But I really wish she had listened to her friends.
Yeah.
And ended things.
Yeah.
And I think she would feel a lot better. Yeah, I think part of her anger at him is probably, her own disowned anger towards herself for having stuck around as long as she did.
But it's also the fact that Lucas was just not being direct, right?
Yeah, it's both. I mean, they both, but it takes two people. So she's got to look at her role too. You know, she didn't trust her gut. She tried way too hard. She was always chasing him. It doesn't feel good to always be chasing somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it seems like in so many ways she's this confident, like tough lady. But it seems with this, and maybe dating's been challenging for her or something. I don't know. But in this way, yeah, she really, I think, abandoned herself and how she was feeling. And probably feels like a lot of her own boundaries were violated and she let them get violated. And so she's really mad at Lucas, even though I think a part, if we're being, if she was being honest, is it's on her for having those boundaries be so violated too.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not trying to blame her. I hope that's coming across.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, I think it's always helpful to look at your own role in the situation too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That said, Lucas did her really dirty and he's got a lot of that need, that compulsive need to be liked and charming and a people pleaser, I think really hindered him throughout. And now I guess he's in a relationship, and I'm wondering how that relationship is. He abandons himself all the time in order to please others.
Right.
So he could never really get in touch with what he was feeling internally because he was so focused on trying to make everybody happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
I mean, what do you think about the fact that in this reunion, right after this conversation, they show a clip of him describing the first meeting with Amelia as being where he's incredibly attracted to her, and
I don't know.
I can't decide whether this was just cruel of them or whether they were in fact kind of calling him out on the fact that, like, it seems unnecessary when a couple has already dissolved and he's described that ultimately what he was feeling was a lack of chemistry, right? To say, oh, but what about, this many months ago when you said this?
You remember on season 5 of the US where it was that Mr. USA? I forget his name. He was with Taylor. Anyway, he said that he had a problem with her wearing makeup, and that was the whole thing. And you were like, what you're really seeing is a man who is not in touch with himself at all. I think it's the same thing. Like, he has no idea what it is for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it might be that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got some work to do on himself.
Yeah.
That sometimes in order to be true to yourself, you have to make others uncomfortable or upset with you,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Crystal Lee calls it out. She's like, you don't know what makes you happy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What I appreciated was that Lucas does not counter that at all. He doesn't say, he doesn't make excuses for it. He's kind of just saying, no, you're pretty right about that. And yeah, those are good questions that I probably need to answer. I don't know if he's going to do the work that he needs to do, but I at least like the fact that he has self-awareness enough in the moment to just kind of take it.
Mm-hmm.
To just sort of say like, yep, I hear you. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, it is, it's really rough to see how hurt Amelia is.
Mm-hmm.
And she describes how she wishes that when she watched this, that she hadn't invested so much of herself in this whole thing and essentially carried the relationship. And this is something that you were saying kind of throughout, just kind of hoping that Amelia would just stop doing that, stop pushing so hard when she was seeing this resistance.
I think it's because it brings something up in me. Like, I think about, how would I be in that situation? And I would like to think that I would walk away. But if I'm being really honest with myself, I can't for sure say that. Yeah. I might stay if I was really in love with somebody and feeling just enough. I probably would stay. I would like to think I wouldn't, but it's a gray area, and I think my feelings about Amelia are because it touches that in me. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really hard to hear her take from this that she feels like she's not enough, right?
Yeah.
When she describes that she feels like her personality wasn't enough, even though this whole thing was about personality, that she feels like her trying her hardest isn't enough. And boy, does that hurt, because it's ultimately, I feel like it's a mismatch in this relationship, right? Like they weren't right for each other, but she just wanted it to be the case that they were, and that's not enough.
Mm-hmm. That's not enough.
That's
right?
not enough, right? It's not that she's not enough, but that simply wanting a relationship to be is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
If the two people are not really meant for each other. And Chrysalie also then calls Lucas out on the fact that he described that he would want to have children with Amelia and how that made her really, really happy, and how that also in itself was kind of cruel.
Mm-hmm.
That he gave her hope, you know?
Mm-hmm. His conflict avoidance has the effect of being cruel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's, yeah. He did not, in trying to, like to your point, to not hurt her
Mm-hmm.
and to avoid the conflict, he was just doing his best to kind of pick out things that, well, she is a good person.
Mm-hmm.
I should like her. I should be into her. But that's not necessary. That's not enough
Yeah.
to make a relationship work, is to just say, I should like her. Yeah.
Yeah, I just had this thought about, intent versus impact, and how with him, the intent is to not hurt her, and the impact is that it incredibly hurt her, and how with Sergio, it's like the intent is to just, want the truth to be like what he thinks it should have been, and the impact is lying and manipulation,
Mm-hmm.
and just how important it is to think about your impact on others when you're acting too,
Yeah.
your own role and things, and the impact you have on others. May we all be able to do that. It's difficult. We're not always going to get it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then, we come over to Sergio and Amanda, and yeah, the rumor, Christopher's face looks like he's about to explode. And yeah, they have to address the big matzo ball in the room.
Yeah. I mean, they spend a good chunk of time talking about the,
does he have a baby with
does
someone?
he have a baby, and how all of this was like really, really hurtful. And then he drops the bomb of, there is no child in Barcelona, but there is a child in Sweden. And Christopher looks like he's going crazy, and the host,
Jessica Almenas.
Jessica Almenas, is freaking out because she had clearly not told this news.
Yeah, Amanda says nobody in this production knew about it. Yeah.
Jessica is covering her face, just aghast, because he has a child who has been born, and he learned about the child 2 months after the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, wow.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's interesting about that, right? Was that when the child rumor came out about the person from Barcelona, they said she's going to give birth in about 3 months, right?
Well, they said she gave birth before the wedding. They just found out about it 2 months after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Because I was going to say, the timelines line up.
Yeah.
That rumor was true. But you're right.
Yeah.
If they got a letter.
Man, can you imagine being married to someone freshly, and then who's already been, a walking red flag, as viewers called him, and then this happens? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, someone asks her, like, would you have married him knowing
if you'd known this?
And she says, I think I would have kept dating him, but I wouldn't have married him.
Yeah, which sucks.
Yeah.
Right? And we are left to have to believe Sergio in the fact that he didn't know about this.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, is our credibility like meter.
I know, with him low.
Running low.
Yeah.
So yeah, it sounds like it's been very difficult and it's been very tough on their relationship, and for him to be a dad, it's pretty wild. And let's add on top of this information that we've since learned, which I can't remember if this actually is shown in this. Is this come up in this
What are you
reunion?
trying to say?
The fact that they are having a
yes,
that
they do
have,
say this in the reunion.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Because they have their own baby, which is
Yeah. Yeah. He's a fertile boy.
yes.
You know.
I like how Amanda says, "I think we're being quite brave."
Yeah.
Yeah, I think to your point, I don't think she is. She will ever back down.
I know.
From this relationship.
I know. I don't think. I certainly didn't walk away from the reunion being like, I feel better about them.
Mm-mm.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that way about Miera and Oscar,
Yeah.
but with them, I was like, I feel just as nervous about you two as I ever have. You know, except now there's more commitments, and yeah, that's rough. Then we go to Katya and Christopher, and Katya speaks about this kind of angry side about Christopher that can get really disrespectful and rude, and he won't stop.
Yeah. And it's unclear whether this was a general thing or whether this was specifically talking about their conversation where, we commented on this, but that their breakup conversation seemed to happen in two stages,
Yes.
right? That there was one scene at a restaurant and that abruptly cuts and then it moves on to a different location. And it seems to, at least I took what she was saying was to mean that he had gotten pretty heated in that moment, which not great.
No.
And yeah, I do wonder whether he was simply just angry or also on top of that trying to take her tack, which was you need to push harder. I forget exactly what her language was,
Right,
but
you need to, yeah.
to confront me, to like not give
Boss
in.
up. Season 4 callback.
Yeah.
It seems like he was just desperate, and in his desperation, he just goes wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the dark side of Christopher, who's usually so patient and composed, you know. Is it a shocker that somebody who's usually so measured and patient, when they go big, they go big? No.
Yeah.
That's a thing that happens quite frequently. But yeah, Christopher, yeah, between him not wanting to let her go and pursuing harder and harder, and then how he like hasn't dated somebody since, and how he's still feeling it, and there's something a little like, it's like he has this obsessive side to him.
Yeah.
You know, and it was troubling to me. I didn't often feel troubled by Christopher on the show, but putting it all together, I was sort of like, okay, there's something not great here. Like there's something deep happening. I certainly feel that the overall vibe he's giving off during this entire episode is one of aggression. Yes. And
it's really hard to put like, and I really do mean vibe, because a good part of what he's doing throughout the episode is we're just showing his face, you know, and his facial reactions to things. And whereas throughout the episode, we've seen mostly sides of him that are, for the most part, we've seen sides of him that are like loving, gentle, kind. We're not seeing that here necessarily. We're seeing an upset, annoyed, it's a different side of him that I don't necessarily I haven't necessarily seen, with the exception of those last couple of episodes of them having those arguments. But even then, he didn't look like this, right, to me.
No, in those last
in their breakup, 100%.
Yes.
And during their breakup, but before
even
that,
his
when
poussé.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Do you think that he looked?
I think he gets mad, and I think he gets
Yeah.
very aggressive in his words
Hmm.
when he's like that. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think that's why she wasn't into him. I think she wasn't into him for other reasons, but it maybe she was picking up on something that was like kind of not quite settled in him.
Mm-hmm.
It, clearly her not being into him triggered him to become more like this, but yeah, so I don't want to say like she was a saint or anything either, because like I don't feel that way, but I think in the show proper, at least the editing, whatever, painted her in, I'm going to say, a worse light than it painted him. Like he was kind of the victim. And after this, it's like, okay, you got stuff to work through, Christopher. Like you're a little scary.
Mm.
He's a little scary to me. Yeah.
Mm.
Not like definitely work on a bowl. It could be, okay, but if I have dated people who can have a real angry side to them, and that is a very scary thing to behold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope that he works on his emotional regulation from like a real way, not like everything's got to be cool,
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. What were your thoughts on Christopher after all this?
So I don't think, when I said that they did him dirty, this is not what I was referring to.
Mm-hmm.
I was referring to more of the the whole Oscar as pussy whipped.
Yeah.
Because it seemed to me that was a conversation that maybe he wouldn't have like. There wasn't any need to broadcast in front of Oscar's face and see, like, this is what he thinks about you, and because that might not necessarily be a great reflection.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense that when you and your partner are talking about other couples, you might say things that don't genuinely 100% reflect how you would ever want to treat them, but they might simply be things that you and your partner are talking about in a sense that I feel like that wasn't necessary for them to show, especially since it never made the cut inside the actual show. They got all the way to this reunion, and then they're like, "Hey, Oscar, he also thinks that you're not a like you can't stand up for yourself, or that you do anything that she says," and it felt unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
And cruel, given that they're already in an episode where Christopher's going to get a bunch of flack.
Yeah.
Deservedly so in some cases, but yeah, that's what I was referring to. But overall, the sort of revelation of like Christopher was aggressive when she said that. I had my first reaction was kind of to your point of there's always been something there to be like, oh, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
And not that it made me feel great, but yeah, that it didn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the sort of reaction that we saw when he like throws away the engagement ring. I was like, okay, so he's got this like impulsive kind of reactionary side to him that's not great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to see more of that, as this reunion goes on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or inklings of it.
We do find the news.
Typical reunion style. It's like there was that intense moment, and now turns out Sergio and Amanda are having a baby. Like,
we're
what?
having a baby. Yeah.
What?
And everybody is.
My emotions can't track that quickly,
Yeah.
Yeah. A baby has never been announced on a reunion show, they say. And it's like, well, there's a lot of firsts with Sergio and Amanda.
Is that the case that a baby has never been announced at a reunion show? Because I want to say that's not the case.
I don't recall seeing one. Yeah, I don't recall it. I know there have been Love is Blind babies, but
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, didn't Zach and Bliss have a baby?
Zach and Bliss had one or two babies, perhaps two at this point. Yeah. And we then very quickly turn from that to Meira and Oscar, where we talk about Meira's hesitation around, actually saying yes, and wanting to get some clarity on why she was hesitating so much.
Yeah. And she says it's because like things were so good that like actually you realize you didn't know them. And oh my gosh, I'm about to get married to this person, and like so almost like having to test things out. Maybe that's something that I mean, I can see feeling like overwhelmed by the whole experience for sure,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is when we get the clip of Christopher saying, "Oh, he's pussy whipped," and does like an impression of Oscar.
Yeah.
Again, just like, wow.
Like why? Why do we need that?
Why did you need to show that to him? Like,
they were probably friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They were probably friends. But we do get a little, some clips of Meira and Oscar seeing each other's, Meira seeing Oscar's living space that we hadn't necessarily seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And a brilliant little cut of the fact that he has a gold framed photo of him swimming above his bed.
Which, to be fair, it was probably just because that's like his mom probably framed it for him, and then that's the only framed photo he had. I'm thinking is where that comes from. Not because he was like, I want to put up something of myself. He was like, I think a picture goes here. What picture do I have?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably it. But yeah, the other couples were talking about them.
Yeah, we got
kind of worried about them.
Rasmus saying that, again, that Meira just kind of walks all over him, and that Oscar just kind of takes it. I don't know if Chrysalie agrees with that based on that reaction. And then, again, we see the Sergio and Amanda kind of talking about Oscar and Meira and how Meira gave Oscar a makeover, which I honestly I hadn't really like noted, but the fact that he's like wearing sneakers and like a sweater, like a sweatshirt, as opposed to like his little sweaters and button downs.
Yeah, but I think that's what I mean. Like, she started organizing her closet by color. He started dressing more hip. Like they seem to have adjusted themselves to each other and made space in their lives, like, for each other. And I like that. I think this is a big part of why, like, I walked away from the reunion feeling like they're doing better. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Yeah. Christopher he said pussy whipped because Mira criticized his apartment, and Christopher says, I wouldn't have stuck around if someone did that. And it's like, no, yes, you would have. Gotcha. Right? That's what I'm saying. Like with the Amelia thing, it's easy to say you would walk away. Very hard to be in it.
Sure, but the truth is that Katya never really criticized, right? That was the thing. That Katya ultimately was just kind of, he would be like, "Is it my looks?" And she was like, "No, it's not. It's nothing. It's nothing really." Like, I don't think Katya really full on ever like gave him critiques.
She was pretty not nice to him though.
Sure, but I think she never did it in a direct way. Like, so she would, she would say like, "Oh, it's the sweat skirt. You're wearing the sweat skirt, are you?" She didn't say
passive aggressive.
Yeah. You had to sort of like take what she was saying and then say like, "Are you saying that sarcastically, as in you don't like it?" As opposed to being her saying like, "I don't like this about you," or "I don't like this," So I do wonder whether like at some point Katya had been more straightforward with him, he would have also then backed up.
I really don't think so. I think he's in a glass house throwing a stone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We also find out that Katya is going out with somebody that she went on a date with in the pods.
Mm-hmm.
And
Christopher looks furious again. Yeah.
And this is somebody that we're also shown, weirdly enough, we're shown an interaction between Christopher and Ade in the pods. Well, like in the men's quarters. And it is interesting to think about the fact that, like he knew who it was that she was ultimately going to be dating. But yeah, I don't necessarily know what this is meant to give us, other than like they're trying to rile up Christopher.
Yeah, this did seem cruel for
So
Christopher.
it's another one of those things where, like, we're gonna now show you how Katya's relationship was with Ade in the pods, and they're just kind of just constantly cutting to Christopher and be like, what do you think? What do you? How does
like,
this make
loving
you feel?
it? Yeah.
Yeah, of course Katya's loving it, because this is who she's seeing right now. So it kind of sucks that they're just like, they didn't need to do this. Yeah, and he when it cuts back to Christopher, he's saying like, I was questioning myself, and wondering whether I did something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But that ultimately he thinks that him and Ade are very different people.
Mm-hmm.
And interesting that Emilia says,
yeah,
I fell in love with Emilia, not Katya.
You've been shipping them hard.
Yeah, I have been shipping them hard. And
Emilia and Christopher.
Yeah, Emilia says, I fell in love with you when I saw you. I thought to myself, what a man. And all I'm saying is they should go on a date. Just like see.
Let's hope they do.
Maybe they do. And Ade comes out, which, this is not unusual for a Love is Blind thing. But again, so much of it is just kind of like, let's see how Christopher reacts to this. The Christopher who's not been dating anybody. Yeah. Hey, how does this make you feel? Does this make you feel like crap? You who are just saying that you think you just don't know what you're doing wrong because it's probably you.
Yeah, and then he has to update that he's single. There's been no one since Katya. I mean, yeah, it's a rough reunion for him, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, he's very triggered in a lot of this show. And so I'm sure he's not like this most of his life. And he's got stuff to work on.
Yeah.
Both are true. Yeah. Yeah, but it's absolutely, he's more like triggered here than he usually is in his life, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that also Katya seems to be, like she's living with Ade, which again she was saying like, I would never have Christopher move in with me.
I know.
And we were left with Christopher trying to just be gracious and say, I'm happy for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Jessica Almenas is like pouring salt in the wound, like, I'm happy for you guys, Katya, but boy, Christopher, I really feel for you. Like, come on. I thought this whole thing was so gratuitous. Crystal Lee was apologizing for being insensitive. Katya and Ade are very insensitive here, and I get not wanting to like dim your light because someone else is there, but also like a little dim it, like just to not be cruel to somebody that you did have a meaningful experience with. Yeah, I don't know. It's complicated. The show is trying to rile up drama.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is one of the things about Love is Blind where I'm just like, ooh, I don't love that about this show. I wish it wasn't like these are people, you know, and it's probably, Christopher probably had some really low times leaving this reunion. Yes. Yeah.
And it's also an interesting, the final question is Love Blind. We have Emilia, Ade, and Katya giving a resounding no. And then Lucas says no.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no. Lucas actually says he agrees with Amanda, who says yes, but you need an attraction once you actually meet the person. And everybody else, the couple say yes. And the sad thing to me is Christopher also says yes.
Yeah.
Because he was in love, and yeah. Yeah.
But that is the reunion. A reunion. And yeah, that's season 1 of Love is Blind Sweden.
Yeah.
Should we announce what we're doing next?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for if you followed us through this. Thank you.
Yes, it's been a journey.
For listening along with a show that was out for a few months already.
Yeah.
We are doing
Love is Blind Brazil.
Brazil, yeah. Specifically the latest season that's coming out right now. We are going to try something different, though.
Yes. I've been talking with Andre about, there's so much Love is Blind. We're already so behind. How are we going to do it? So we're trying a thing where... Lay it down, Dre.
We're going to watch a chunk of episodes, the ones that have been released, and we're going to record a single episode about all of those.
I think episodes 1 through 4.
1 through 4, is it? Yeah. If you hate it, let us know. I don't know if it's going to change anything.
We really got to get back. I think when it comes to US, we really do try to hit those when they're coming out. So that might have an impact. But yeah, we'll get through more quickly if we do it this way. So, but we're just taking notes as we're watching, and then I think going to revisit themes and couples. So it won't be the episode by episode.
Yeah. So it looks as though the first 8 are out already for Brazil.
Yeah, so we got to do 4.
Ooh, okay. So we'll do the first 4, release that, and then we'll do the next 4 and release those.
Interesting premise, Love is Blind Brazil. A fresh start.
Yeah. Folks who have already been married or engaged and who are looking for it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see.
We'll see. I mean, we've seen...
We've seen some of it. Yeah.
We've gotten started and we have taken the notes. So expect some episodes.
Expect the unexpected.
Expect some episodes to drop soon for that.
That's a drop.
That's a drop. It's the sound of a drop, y'all. I guess I'll do a new cover. Ooh.
FYI, I've never made that sound in my life before, and I didn't know I could do it twice.
What was the sound again?
Oh. Wait. No. I lost it. It was like a shooting star.
It's also what it sounded like. All right, everybody.
They'll drop. Yeah. So again, did we slay?
Or nay?
I think we brought it back to slay.
Slay or nay?
But it's not a nay.
It's not a nay?
I'd at least give it a yay.
You'd give it
We had a rough start this app, but I'd put us at solid yay.
Solid yay.
And you know what? My mom would probably say slay.
Aw.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Mom.
Moms. This one's for all the moms.
I paused because I was like, I shouldn't say your mom's name.
No, I know. I saw that. I was like, no.
You saw my hesitation.
Claim it, Andre.
I want people to piece it together and find out who we are. Anyway.
But if you like us, you can find us on Instagram again. Love is Blind Podcast.
Love is Blind Podcast.
And please give us 5 stars. If you want to give us 1 star, don't.
Instead, just message us constructive criticism and
Yeah.
we'll work on it. And then we'll
We do
change
take
that 1
feedback.
star to a 5.
Yeah, we'll turn that frown upside down.
If you say, can you stop recording when your air conditioning is going off? Things like that.
We will try. I am again flush against the mic in response to many people saying I need to speak up. So we're trying.
Yeah.
We're trying. And we get a 5 stars for effort and execution.
A new sound effect. Okay. We gotta go.
All right. We'll see you at Love is Blind Brazil.
Okay.